Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 649 for the 23rd of January 2022. Richard Saunders coming to you from Sydney, Australia. And after weeks of very muggy, hot, muggy weather, today is a little bit muggy and overcast and not, and then patchy, and then a bit of rain, and on it goes. I was fortunate enough to score some TV work during the week, which was much needed. But getting home from that on the public transport system when it's this hot and muggy, especially when you just miss a bus, the other bus doesn't come, and the trains are delayed. Oh well. Coming up on this week's show, I speak to Pontus Björkman from Malmö in Sweden. And of course, Pontus is a co-host of that fabulous podcast, the European Skeptics podcast, The Real ESP Experience. Pontus is going to tell us about the results of a very large survey undertaken about what people in Sweden believe. All sorts of things, from climate change to conspiracy theories to creationism and on. An interesting little, what shall we call it? Interesting little look into the thoughts of the Swedes. And I wonder what the situation would be in your country if a similar survey was undertaken. Anyway, that's coming up at the top of the show with Pontus Björkman. Following that, it's a little segment I'm just simply calling Bits and Pieces. Just news items that have come my way from listeners and Maynard. Hello, Maynard. Just about some COVID craziness and some sad stories, unfortunately. And another one of those crazy advertisements that have appeared on my Facebook feed. This one for an ET communication seminar. Then to round off the show in the Trove segment, we're going to be looking through the historical records of newspapers and so on for references to remote viewing. Remote viewing. Now, a bit of a heads up, I'm absolutely thrilled and delighted to have been asked by the Gold Coast Skeptics, hello Dr. Paulie, to give a presentation. And I'll be doing that in February. And this is online, of course. On the 21st of February, here in Australia, I'll be giving my talk about strange energies and even stranger devices. This is one of my favourite talks, updated for 2022. And if you Google Gold Coast Skeptics up in Queensland there, or just follow the link in this week's show notes, you can register for this online event. It will be Monday, the 21st of February here in Australia from 8:30 p.m. And a little bit about the talk. In this talk, long-time skeptical investigator, me, Richard Saunders, takes a look at just some of the many claims of Ufos, which is energies unknown to science. Can a set of headphones really diagnose your ills? Can a lump of resin plugged into the wall clear your house of negative energy? Does cosmic energy fix rising damp? Find out as Richard guides you through these and other amazing claims. Talk followed by questions and answers, online socializing, bring your own cuppa, drink, snack, etc. And that'll be on Zoom. And I look forward to seeing you there on the night and maybe at least trying to answer your questions. Well, it's not a great day for going to the beach, though I do like to walk along the beach sometime, have the water lap at my toes. Not like the other week where I was walking along the beach to have the water lap at my toes, and a sort of a freak wave came and knocked me off my toes. Splush! Which was all very funny, except when I got up and was a little bit discombobulated, it took me a minute to realize that my prescription glasses had been swept out to sea. Oh dear. Luckily, I was holding my iPhone at the time and it wasn't swept out to sea, although within about 10 minutes it started not to function. So next time I go to paddle by the ocean, take a nice walk along the beach, I'll be a bit more careful. How does that sound? But for now, it's time for me not to run to the ocean, to the beach. It's time for me to run downstairs and have a nice, healthy salad wrap. While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Joining me now all the way from beautiful Malmö in Sweden, it's none other than Pontus Bergman. Hello, Pontus.
Hey, son, Richard. Very nice to be back on the Skeptic Zone again.
Great to see you. We are looking at each other, and I must tell you that your delightful co-host Annika is in Australia at the moment, and we were to meet up and interview and have a look for a ghost or something like that. But because the COVID situation here in Sydney, in Australia, is not so good, she's playing it very safe. So we've simply had to greet each other online, which is a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, too bad.
But I can understand. Now, Pontus, you've dropped me a line. You sent me a note to say you've had some interesting results to a survey in Sweden all about the paranormal and the supernatural and pseudoscience. What can you tell us about that?
Right, yes. So what we've done is, it's called the VOF study, or the VOF study, VOF being the acronym for the Swedish Skeptics. I won't get into the linguistic part of that, but the VOF study was something we did the first time in 2015. We paid a professional survey company, the kind of who does the political polls and stuff like that. And we paid them to find out what the Swedish public actually believe in. So we tried to cover the most interesting views on pseudoscience, superstitions, and conspiracy theories, things like that. Ghosts as well. So we had 58 questions in total. 2,500 people replied or we made sure that there were 2,500 replies to each and every question. And that's more than you really need for some statistical purpose. But we wanted to break it down also into subgroups. So we looked into gender differences, age groups, where you live, education levels, and also political sympathies as well. So try to break down the population in different groups, and that's why we did a big study like that. And we did the questions were the actual survey was done in September, but it's taken all autumn to analyze the results and get the statistics really right, because we don't want to make any mistakes statistics wise, and also want to find the interesting parts. And then we presented it just before New Year's. We presented the thing, and we sent out a press release, and we presented the results in 6 different categories. So we talk about environmental issues, views about humans and humankind. It's a bit of a broad area. Then we asked about health and illnesses, including a subcategory, of course, about corona and coronavirus vaccines and stuff like that. Then we looked into something we called knowledge, conspiracy theories, and then religion and beliefs as one. It's
quite a wide-ranging survey.
Yeah, we wanted, but once we do this, we don't want to think afterwards, oh, we should have asked that as well. So we really put together, and still we did cut a few questions out, of course, out of cost reasons and stuff. It was quite expensive, but we wanted to make it really professional. So that's what we did, and the reason we did it was first of all, we're curious, right?
Yes, it's good to know these things. Yes.
Yeah, it is, and you want to know how common is it that people believe in dowsing or in angels or 9/11 conspiracies, things like that. But also, as skeptics, we spend a lot of our time fighting misconceptions like this and silly things, dangerous ideas. But if we don't know what people believe in, or if they believe in them, the risk is that we focus on the wrong things and we miss things that maybe are more important than we think. If nobody believes in faith healing, there's no point in us talking about it, right?
Yeah. Well, but you make a good point, because as I often say on the Skeptic Zone, these things come and go.
84% of the Swedish public believes in anthropogenic global warming, so that they are on board. But that means that 15% are not. There was a few who didn't answer that question, or answered that they didn't know. So 15% are not on board with this concept, and that's interesting to know. It was maybe a little bit bigger. It's not sensational, but it's a little bit bigger than I thought.
It's not a big surprise. It's a pity it's that number, but it's not a big surprise.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Then one thing we asked about was about organic farming. That's very popular, and it is, really. We can see that in our almost 2/3 of the population thinks that organic farming is an important part for a sustainable society. It's not as efficient as conventional farming, which means you use more land.
Yes.
And using more land is the big problem when it comes to environmental issues. So then we can go into the category that I call humans and humankind. So views about humans and humankind. That's a big subject. But the most sensational thing there, which was also picked up by the media when we sent out the press release, is the views about human races. Can you divide the human species into races? So basically, are you a racist? And we couldn't ask that question, because that was a little bit too. You don't get honest answers there.
Yeah.
So one question that we asked that was very interesting was, humankind is made up of races with different inherited personality traits. So you have to parse that question a little bit, but our thinking was that if you say that a person has certain personality traits because he belongs to a certain race, and you answer that with yes, that means that you believe that there are different races that are very different, or at least different. So 17% reply that they agree to some extent that humanity is made up of different races. And that's rather high. And the interesting thing is that when you divide that and you ask who has replied that, it is very much up to it correlates very well with your political feelings, right? So followers of the Sweden Democratic Party, which is our very most right-wing party in Sweden, who has built their whole agenda about the best thing. Every problem has a solution, and the solution is always to deport foreign people. That's so they have one solution and they apply it to all the problems.
Yeah.
47% of them agreed that humanity is made up of races with different inherited personality traits. That's very high. The Green Party supporters, on the other hand, it was only 5%. Then we can go into health and illnesses.
Yeah, well, that's a very, very good topic to look at right at the moment because of the worldwide situation.
So actually, we found that a lot of people are okay with vaccinations. They are not very scared or vaccine hesitant, which means that the people who are not that many, but they're very loud because you hear them all the time, of course.
Yes, same here, I think.
And 22% of the Swedish population believe that the coronavirus was created in a lab. I can't say for sure that it was not, but there's no scientific evidence of that as yet. So if you believe that now, you do that because of other reasons than scientific reasons.
Right. Wow.
So that's also, for some reason, the Christian Democrats also pretty high on this scale on conspiracy theories in general, and specifically coronavirus. 30% believe that the coronavirus was created in a lab. That it's pretty interesting. I think we can go. If we want to look into religion and beliefs a little bit, 19% of the Swedish population are not convinced that evolution is real. That was shocking to me.
That's high. I am surprised it's that high in this day and age.
Yeah, it is. It is. There's some fun findings as well. Maybe not so serious, but interesting to just note that 12% of all women believe in astrology, but only 4% of the men. On the other hand, and not so surprisingly as well, men believe more in UFOs than women do. So 19% of men believe in UFOs, and it was defined as aliens have visited Earth.
Yeah,
so it was not just
very important to make that distinction, because the word UFO to many people simply means alien spaceship. That's very important.
And that was the context that we asked for. So 19% of men, but only 12% of women believe in that. But it's still high numbers, I think.
Yeah.
So then, if you want, I wanted to look into also what's changed since 2015 when we did the previous report. But so it's 6 years between the two reports. But there's good news. A belief that GMO is dangerous has fallen from 50% to 36%.
That's good.
So that's good. That means that slowly people are coming to realize that GMO may not be that dangerous. And as we know, there's no scientific reason to be afraid of. Yeah. Inherently, there's nothing wrong with GMO. Vaccine hesitancy is down from 7% to 3%.
That's very good.
That's very good, and that leads me to think that the information campaigns that have... I'm speculating now, but during the pandemic, there's been a lot of information about vaccines and how good they are and that it works and it's safe. And I think that is what we're seeing here, that kind of influenced this trend. Belief in acupuncture is also down from 64% to 48%. That's still high, but the trend is in the correct direction. There's bad news as well, at least one I'll bring up. The belief in repressed memories, that you can get repressed memories out of somebody. Somebody has forgotten something, and you can, through hypnosis or through helping them to remember. That belief was 42% 6 years ago. So that was high, but now it's 50%.
Really?
And that's interesting, because that, again, I'm speculating as to why, but 6 years ago there was a big scandal in Sweden about repressed memories. We shouldn't go into all of it, but it was very public, and there was a lot of talk about how it doesn't work, and there was a legal scandal. Somebody who was very unfairly treated by the legal system. And so it was a hot topic 6 years ago, but now nobody talks about it. And then the belief creeps up again. And if that is true, that leads me to think that we need to keep at it. Some beliefs that you think you have debunked. Well, we hadn't debunked that totally 6 years ago, but you think it's sort of under control, but if nobody keeps repeating the message, it creeps back up again. So we need to be...
a new generation come up. That's people say that to us. They say, well, this topic has been well and truly debunked and so on. So, well, okay, yes, it has been, but how about the next generation coming up now?
Right.
They have to learn all this stuff, for themselves.
Yeah.
Is there any reference there to things like new technology like 5G?
Yeah, we did ask about 5G as well. 9% of the Swedish public believe that the radiation from 5G masts are harmful for your health. That's how we put the question. 9% believes that's true. And of course, again, the more right-wing you are, the more you agree with that. So I think still that information does help. So we say sometimes that you cannot convince people because they're into certain beliefs out of emotional reasons, not from logic and reason. But I do think that information helps. We can see it in the vaccine hesitancy that's gone down during the pandemic, and even in some other topics that we don't need to go into now. I think it helps. So that's good news, because you can make a difference.
Now you have some other news for me from Sweden about some awards.
Yes. So just like you have in Australia, and there's in many other countries, we have the annual awards from the Swedish Skeptics, and we hand out 2 awards, one positive that we called the Enlightener of the Year. And it's a little bit clunky in English. I think in Swedish it sounds better. But anyway, so and we gave that to 3 individuals this year actually, because they were working in the same sort of area. They're called Maria Alsen, Jessica Norrbom, and Jakob Gudiol. And I know probably internationally they are not very well known, but they got the prize for promoting facts and science in the area of personal training and health. So they have for several years been very important as a counterpoint to all the pseudoscience in that area out there. Right. You know, all of the special herbs you're supposed to take and steroids and stuff. Yes. Yeah, and they go through what's working and what's not, and why it doesn't work, and what the scientific reasons are for saying so. Mm-hmm. Then what we got more, unfortunately you always get more, or we always get more, there's always more press about the bad prize, because it's I guess it's more interesting to hear about somebody who's done something really bad. So our bad prize, it's not the Bent Spoon Award, but it's similar. It's called, and this is even worse in English, we call it, I have sort of translated it as Confounderer of the Year. Yeah, I don't know if Confounderer is a real English name or a word, but I think it's understandable. And this goes to a journalist this year. He's called Henrik Evertsson, and he made a documentary regarding the Estonia disaster. Estonia was a big cruising ship that sank in the Baltic Sea in 1994. 850 people lost their lives. So it was a huge trauma, both for Sweden and the country Estonia, because it was in between those, it was trafficking between those 2 countries, and of course terrible. But this new documentary, it propagates all kinds of half-truths and conspiracies under the excuse that it's only asking questions. And almost everybody in Sweden, I think, has some connection to some person who died. So it's very, very emotional still after nearly 30 years. And in our opinion, he used this terrible event as an excuse to further his career as a journalist. And to make it even worse, the documentary inexplicably received a big journalist award. So we also included the jury for that award into our Confounderer award.
Well, Pontus, it's good to see action, skeptical action, no matter where it is in the world. It's I'm very pleased to see it when skeptics are actually doing something, being proactive, investigating, getting out there and collecting data. So we know what we're talking about. I mean, you probably get accused, skeptics everywhere get accused of being armchair skeptics, sitting back just saying, I don't believe it, go away, right. Ghosts aren't real. Right. So it's good to demonstrate to the public that that's not us at all. We actually... If we make a statement, we have the information to back it up.
Yes, that's really important.
So where can people go, Pontus? Where can they go online to look at all these things?
Everything is available on our webpage, which is vof.se. vof.se.
Well, thank you very much once again, Pontus. Thank you for all the things you do. Of course, for the wonderful ESP podcast. Well, Pontus, all the way from beautiful Malmö in Sweden, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Richard. Always great to be back on the show.
Principles of Curiosity is Skeptoid Media's 2017 film that teaches an easy method anyone can use to tell fact from fiction. And now, it's available on Amazon Prime. Principles of Curiosity teaches the 3 C's: challenge, consider, and conclude, as a way to learn what's real and what's just more pop culture nonsense. From the fiery depths of Death Valley to the farthest reaches of space, Principles of Curiosity puts the 3 C's to the test. Search Amazon Prime for Principles of Curiosity. Watch it, enjoy it, and give it a rating so it'll be suggested to other Prime customers who need it. Principles of Curiosity from Skeptoid, now available on Amazon Prime.
Some bits and pieces from around the internet this week to bring you on the Skeptic Zone. Some news items and things that have come my way, thanks to keen listeners out there keeping their eyes open. And the first story, oh boy, it reads, this is from news.com.au, by the way, by Jessica Wang. Published on the 17th of January, anti-vax Reiki master and tarot card reader Helen Healing, Heeling, Dean, in ICU with COVID. And this came my way via Maynard. It says, in part, a prominent anti-vaxxer tarot card reader and Reiki master based in the town of Mullumbimby, near Byron Bay, is currently fighting for her life in an ICU ward, her friend has said. Now, I believe the update on this is I don't think she's in critical condition anymore. Anyway, Helen Dean, who also goes by the name of Healing, was hospitalized for COVID-19 on Christmas Eve and required the support of a ventilator. She is also believed to be unvaccinated. Well, I would think that's probably the case. Sharing their well wishes on Ms. Dean's social media, a friend said Ms. Dean has since been moved to general ICU for ongoing care and monitoring. Based in the Byron Shire town of Mullumbimby, which is known for its alternative culture, Ms. Dean also regularly shares YouTube videos on manifestation, grounding, and cleansing techniques, and video guides on releasing toxic stuff by using leaves, candles, and bundles of sage, also known as smudge sticks. The holistic health practitioner has also been vocal in her opposition of vaccine mandates. Ms. Dean has also shared multiple Facebook posts against vaccine mandates, including photos of protesters holding up signs with messages like, "Discrimination is not democracy," "We say not to medical apartheid," maybe that should say "We say no to medical apartheid," and "My body, my choice." In another post, Ms. Dean shared her support for the anti-vaccine mandate Reclaim the Line rally at Tweed Heads. And that story goes on, but as I said before, I believe that she's probably out of danger now. I think so. And a quick search around the internet, I can't see an update, a recent update. Just the same news repeated that she was in hospital. I guess the point is that all the Reiki in the world and all the sage doesn't mean anything against COVID. COVID doesn't care if you're a Reiki master. It really doesn't. The next story, along the same lines of COVID-19 and people catching that, comes to us once again from news.com.au, and this is by Alexis Carey. Unvaccinated Czech singer Hannah Hawker, I think it's pronounced, dies days after getting COVID-19 on purpose. A well-known unvaccinated European singer has died just days after intentionally catching COVID-19, leaving behind her shattered family. What a sad story. It says the devastated son of a well-known anti-vax singer who died after catching COVID on purpose has spoken out, warning others not to follow his mother's path. Hannah Hawker 57, was a member of Czech folk band Ascendance and had refused to be vaccinated against the virus. When her husband and son, Jan Rek, who are both fully vaccinated, contracted COVID around Christmas, she refused to isolate from them. Instead, she opted to deliberately contract the illness in order to gain a Czech health pass, which allows access to public venues to those who can provide proof of vaccination or recent recovery from the virus. Venues such as cinemas, restaurants and bars are currently off limits to the unvaccinated in the nation. Mr. Rek told the BBC his mother had died suddenly on Sunday after her condition seemingly started to improve. He says she should have isolated for a week because we tested positive. But she was with us the whole time. Mr. Rek told the BBC of his mother's decision to intentionally catch the virus. In about 10 minutes, it was all over. She choked to death. Her philosophy was that she was more okay with the idea of catching COVID than getting the vaccine. He told reporter Ben Tobias his mother would not listen when family members tried to persuade her to get the vaccine, and said he wanted to share his family's story in the hope of convincing others to take the COVID threat seriously. If you have living examples from real life, it's more powerful than just graphs and numbers. You can't really sympathize with numbers, he said. Well, I guess, and the story goes on with some more details there, but I guess one of the very, very, very ironic and sad things about this whole story is, yes, it may persuade some people to change their mind and get the vaccination, but not many. Or should I say, there will be still thousands and thousands of people who probably hear about this story who will not change their mind. And sadly, some of those people too will catch COVID and die because of it. And finally, in this little roundup, I want to relay one more sponsored advertisement that appeared on my Facebook feed. I did a segment a week or two ago about strange advertisements I see on my Facebook feed. This one is a real doozy. Star Family Wisdom. Curious about ET contact, UFOs, our multi-dimensional reality? Make contact with our free ET contact event. Join the panel discussion and conversation on January 23rd with former Global Vice President for Whole Foods Market and founder of Star Family Wisdom, Jenna Layden, and special guests Sinead Whelan, Nada Hanna, and Mariana Hernandez. Sign up below and get access to the live event on January 23rd. In this event, you'll learn 1. How humans make contact with ETs. What's going on with abductions, ET contact, and the reality of UFOs. Learn about the contact modalities employed by humans and ETs, and how first contact is beginning. Well, it's about time. It's about time. 2. What's going on with disclosure? Learn about how citizen disclosure is occurring. Learn about why there is a cover-up. It's a long-lasting cover-up, and how citizens can support the disclosure movement. 3. Our ET experiences. Jenna and her guests are experiences of supernatural phenomena and ET contact. Learn about the awakening process, how we can integrate these experiences, and what we can all learn from the star races. The star races. I assume she means races of aliens from the stars. It could be like a star race. The first one to Alpha Centauri and back wins. And it lists the people involved, but just quickly: founder host, Jenna Layden. Jenna is a former global vice president for Whole Foods Market and has been leading teams and individuals through change and transformation for over 15 years. As an experiencer of supernatural phenomena and ET contact, Jenna has developed, a passion for helping humans embrace a multidimensional reality without fear. Through those experiences, Jenna began remembering lives off Earth and is now focused on her mission in this life to be a teacher of lost knowledge and wisdom from the stars. Now a shamanic practitioner and spiritual/cosmic guide, Jenna connects ancient wisdom, new mind-body science, and universal spiritual teachings to assist people in navigating their heading and spiritual transformation. In early 2021, Jenna founded Star Family Wisdom, an online educational platform and community where she offers shamanic initiation and digital courses on spirituality, shamanism, ET contact, and personal evolution. She is also a member of the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma and is a passionate advocate for the indigenous communities and wisdom keepers who have been fierce protectors of humanity's original wisdom. I wonder what they have to say about that. Somebody claiming to make contact with aliens and their races. So there you go. Make contact with our free ET contact event. At the bottom of the page it says, "Can you imagine a future that includes travelling among the stars?" Yes, I can. Not in my lifetime, but yes, I can. A future that includes returning to balance, harmony, and a peaceful way of life. Returning to balance, harmony? Returning? A future that allows our human creativity and joy to flourish. Well, certainly that can happen now. A future that includes open contact and exciting exchange programs with star races. Should be a children's cartoon. Star races! A future that includes a healed, transformed, and spiritually evolved society? ? I agree with the question mark, because that's where we're headed. Learn more in the live event on January 23rd. Well, there you go. Just a few bits and pieces, items, odds and ends that have come my way over the course of the last week. Next week, I'll be looking at more tips from listeners that come in occasionally, which I appreciate, and some other news doing the rounds. But for now, I'm off to watch the star races. There they go.
Hello, this is Maynard. Did you know that you can listen to the Skeptic Zone on YouTube? Yes, I know, sounds crazy, but it's true. Also, you can hear 40 logical fallacies with Michelle Bickersma and funny sketches with Richard Saunders and a host of other skeptics. Just click on the YouTube links on the homepage at skepticzone.tv.
Yes, it's time once again to look into the digital archives, well, from around the world. This week we're going to be looking at references from the United States of America, newspapers over the decades. Normally it's Australian. This week we're going a bit further afield, and we're going to be researching the term remote viewing. What is remote viewing? For those of you who have not heard the topic or the term, according to the Skeptics Dictionary at skeptic.com, remote viewing, RV, is a fancy name for telepathy or clairvoyance, the alleged psychic ability to perceive places, persons, and actions that are not within the range of the senses. The term seems to have been invented by physicist Dr. Russell Targ and the physicist/Scientologist Dr. Harold Puthoff to describe their work with alleged psychics for the US government in a project known as Stargate. If the remote viewer gets messages from a site from a person who is at the site looking around, then it would be telepathy. If the remote viewer gets a message from a site by perceiving the site physically, then it would be clairvoyance. If the viewer gets impressions of the site from the future, then it would be precognition. If he gets impressions from someone who viewed the site in the past, then it would be retrocognition. If he gets messages from the Akashic Record or the 11th Dimension, wasn't that a pop group? Or directly from some god, then another explanation is needed. Now, this page is quite lengthy, as it turns out, but remote viewing, a bit later on, it says the CIA and the US Army thought enough of remote viewing to spend millions of taxpayers' dollars on Stargate. The program involved using psychics for such operations as trying to locate Gaddafi of Libya, so our Air Force could drop bombs on him, and the locating of a missing airplane in Africa. But to get to the nub, to boil it down, the claim is you can sit in a room and perceive things that are happening in another room or another city or another country, etc., etc. In other words, you can view events remotely. You don't have to be there. You can be sequestered away, and somehow the information of events in the next room, the next house, the next city, the next country are coming to you via psychic or mystical means. And as it happens, we do have a search return here from Australia to kick things off. From the Canberra Times, dated the 30th of November 1995. Scientific study proves, and proves is in inverted commas, ESP works for some. Washington, Wednesday. Some people might have a paranormal ability to visualize hidden or distant objects without actually seeing them, a CIA commissioned study made public yesterday has reported. The study by the American Institute for Research, a private Washington social science research firm, said, quote, statistically significant, end quote, results have been observed in the laboratory experiments to test extrasensory perception, which it called, quote, remote viewing, end quote. The Central Intelligence Agency commissioned the study at the request of the Senate Appropriations Committee, keen to know whether more government research into parapsychology was warranted to give the US spy agencies an extra arrow to their quiver. The findings were made public after they were cited by ABC News. David Christian, a CIA spokesman, declined to discuss examples of CIA use of so-called psychic spying, but said almost all of its research in the 1970s was, quote, experimental, end quote. The Defense Intelligence Agency, which coordinates military intelligence, had no comment. A statistics professor from the University of California, Davis, Jessica Utz, and that name has come up before, I'm sure, who worked on the study and specializes in evaluating parapsychological research, said the data she reviewed for the CIA study had produced the most credible evidence to date that humans were capable of paranormal psychic feats. At this stage, using the standards applied to any other area of science, the case for psychic functioning has been statistically proven, she said. And that story is from Reuters. Well, so she thinks it was proven all the way back in 1995. That news hasn't reached the rest of us yet, evidently. And now from the Daily Texan, published in March 23rd, 1998. Remote Viewing, Remote Possibility, by Rowan Widener, Texan columnist. Paul H. Smith, a graduate student in the philosophy department, as a wonderful biography. An Army career officer, he worked mainly in intelligence-related positions and retired in 1996 after 20 years of service. He holds the utterly marvellous distinction of being one of the few government employees to be formally schooled in, quote, remote viewing, end quote. Smith tells us that the CIA explained that remote viewing is a skill by which a person can perceive objects, persons, or events at a location removed from him or her by either space or time. The prospect that remote viewing can lead to valuable intelligence information led the CIA to run a $20 million program to exploit remote viewing as an intelligence asset. Some of you may remember remote viewing from last year's fiasco, when Emory University professor Courtney Brown, loosely connected with the same CIA program as Smith, remotely viewed comet Hale-Bopp and declared that there was a planet-sized spaceship in its wake. This arguably tipped the delicate personalities of the Heaven's Gate cult over the edge, leading to their early rendezvous with oblivion. Smith has begun his own training institute, Remote Viewing Instructional Services, RVIS, based in Round Rock. And the website listed here, if it's still in use, I don't know, is www.rviewer, so rviewer.com. You can learn remote viewing from Courtney Brown, but all the crazy space alien garbage that comes with it is worthless, explains Smith. Well, any critic of Courtney Brown is a friend of ours, so we will give Smith the benefit of the doubt. In fact, we will do better than that. We will assume his claims are worth investigating. In the RVIS basic course, you will learn to detect and decode the major gestalt of a target, describe sensory impressions from the sight, and grasp its fundamental dimensional characteristics, claims the RVIS website. It works like this. A target coordinator describes what will be viewed. He describes a place, such as a certain building, a particular canyon, or a specific airport, and a certain time, generally the present or the past. Remote viewing the future is possible as well, but as Smith correctly explained, there are some tricky logical complications. The target coordinator then generates a encrypted coordinate, which contains the coordinator's intent to view that specific location. Then a mediator, who does not know the nature of the location to be viewed, gives the remote viewer the encrypted coordinate. The viewer then goes about his or her collection of information regarding the major gestalt of the object. Advanced viewers can often get extremely specific information. Unlike most psychics, Smith seems to have an appreciation of double-blind studies. We are honest skeptics who are sure that stuff like this in a hip, cool universe should be possible. Therefore, we have created a friendly, hopeful, and honest challenge for Smith and his students. We have established a database of places on Earth with the intent that they be attended to by a remote viewer. We have encrypted their coordinates. The master list has been sealed and is being securely held by Texan editor Colby Black. At the leisure of Smith and his students, we encourage them to view these sites and deliver to us, by email, their summary of the major gestalt, sensory impressions, and fundamental dimensional characteristics. Since we consider ourselves progressive skeptics, we will even ask Smith to provide his analysis and make independent, quote, hit/miss, end quote, determinations. We promise no trickery and a clean protocol. The exact protocol and the encrypted coordinates can be found at www.ph.utexas.edu/RWYNAR/remoteviewing.html. All readers are invited to participate. Smith specifically claims to have viewed targets as interesting as Hale Bopp, he saw nothing unusual, Pan Am Flight 800, and a remarkable precognitive session by 2 days of the Iraqi missile striking the USS Stark. We want to believe. Widener is a physics graduate student, it says. Now let's have a look to see if there's anything still at that website. And believe it or not, using the Wayback Machine, I've found an archived version of that website. Welcome to the National Remote Viewing Progress Check. Purpose: good protocol, honest and fair feedback. The purpose of this site is to provide both students and participants of remote viewing a source of prepared encrypted coordinates that are honestly and securely maintained. And it goes on. If I scroll down, there's a target list here. And of course, all the items were closed a long time ago, during the year 1998. Let me just click on one, Target 9 for example, and it appears to be Mount Rushmore. A set of coordinates and some more information on the page there about the session and the summary. I'll link to that in the show notes, you might be interested to see. But we'll end with a page here, or a couple of pages from the Roswell Daily Record, dated the 1st of July 2017. And there's a photograph here of a man standing in front of a projection with a crudely drawn classic movie alien on the big eyes. And the caption says, Courtney Brown points to a still from the documentary Roswell, Crash at Cornea. At a drawing of an extraterrestrial, he claims, crashed near Roswell in 1947. Brown argues that through the use of remote viewing, a mental process involving psychic ability that allows the transfer of information across time and space, he is able to prove it was not a weather balloon that crashed near Roswell. And the story goes, speaker declares UFO did crash in Roswell. Remote viewing, a form of psychic ability, helps prove extraterrestrial theory, Brown says. By Katie Moss, Roswell Daily Record. There were many topics discussed during the first day of the Roswell Daily Record sponsored event, the Roswell Incident. But perhaps the most captivating was Courtney Brown's declaration that extraterrestrials did, in fact, crash near Roswell 70 years ago. He said during his presentation Friday he discovered it through the phenomenon of remote viewing, a controlled, tangible mental process involving psychic ability that transfers perceptual information across time and space. With the evidence that followed, he said it was more than a weather balloon that crashed in July 1947. Brown is the director and founder of the Farsight Institute, a not-for-profit research and educational organization dedicated to understanding remote viewing through the process of scientific experimentation, according to the organization's website. He told audience members 3 individuals performed a remote viewing on the crash of Roswell in the 2-part documentary Roswell, Crash at Corona. In the documentary, Dick Aguirre, Daz Smith and Aziz Brown are the 3 individuals who performed the remote viewing. Without any communication between them, as well as working alone, they all came to the same conclusion. Brown said they found that a crash did occur and that the ship was part of an extraterrestrial fleet. Interestingly enough, the occupants were not wearing seatbelts. The remote viewers also discovered the craft's transportation was across time and space and was interdimensional. The occupants could view their travel across screens that showed interdimensional and time elements. In addition, they found that the ship travelled over at least one city before crashing near Roswell. The occupants in the ship were hairless, slender, and appeared frail. According to the remote viewers' findings, they had large black oval-shaped eyes. Brown also told audience members that the remote viewers discovered information on the origins of the UFO. Their findings suggest that the craft had previous locations was occasionally stored underground and flew with a fleet in space. Also, all of the subjects in and around were humanoid, meaning they looked similar to humans. In his presentation, Brown said that remote viewers from the Farsight Institute also participate in a monthly project called the Time Cross Project, in which they predict major news events a month before they occur. These sessions are recorded live and then uploaded to YouTube. Before he revealed what the remote viewers discovered, Brown spent the first 30 minutes of his presentation explaining the theory of remote viewing. After his presentation, audience members watched both parts of the documentary. Chase Kulinski, a member of the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, and an active investigator in national UFO cases, introducing the event. This is going to be a memorable weekend as we all celebrate the event that sparked the modern UFO era, she said. It was the Roswell Daily Record that broke the story, and it's most appropriate. It's really exciting to spend this special time with Roswell staff and volunteers that work at the paper. She introduced David Marler, the first speaker of Friday's event. Marler conducted numerous investigations into alleged UFO sightings and related experiences during his tenure with the MUFON. He also owned... Sounds like a biscuit, doesn't it? I'll have a chocolate MUFON, please. He also owns one of the largest personal libraries of UFO journals, books, case files, newspaper clippings, and magazines from across the world. The collection covers the last 65 years. In his talk, titled New Mexico and 1947, Setting the Stage, Marler analyzed New Mexico's military history and technological developments near the time of the crash. He argued that if an outside intelligence, such as extraterrestrials, wanted to judge the level of human technology on Earth, New Mexico would have been the optimal choice. He stressed that Roswell was not the start of the UFO phenomenon. He examined the UFO cases that occurred before the infamous Roswell crash, an example being the Battle of L.A., which occurred in 1942. Richard M. Dolan will start off the last day of the event on Sunday. A full speaker panel with audience participation will follow. The event will end with an award presentation. Josh Gates, the host and executive producer of the hit Travel Channel show Expedition Unknown, is scheduled to make a guest appearance at the Roswell Incident, although the date and time of his appearance was unknown by Press Time Friday. For a complete look at the schedule or to find out more information on the event, visit roswellincident.com. Now, normally you're used to me saying, oh, I wish I was there, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall. But having been to various talks about UFOs, no, it's all right. I don't mind missing out. Well, there you go. Just a few examples of the use of the term remote viewing from the pages of newspapers here in Australia and in the United States. And that last one, interesting, combining both remote viewing and UFOs. You too can combine all sorts of things when you go to Trove at trove.nla.gov.au. If you're here in Australia, you can do what I did and look up your ancestors if they've been here long enough. And I discovered interesting clippings about my grandfather some years ago. But as I always like to say, you'll never know what you will find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and thank you as ever to those wonderful people who show their support to the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal, and you can do that at skepticzone.tv. Some people chip in, as little as $3 or $4 a week. Some people chip in 5 or 10 or 20 even, and sometimes some very generous people chip in a lot more once in a while. You can also go to skepticzone.tv, click the subscriptions or the PayPal link or the Patreon link, And on the next page, you'll see my Amazon wish list link. And that's got some technical gear that can help the Skeptic Zone. Coming up on next week's show, who knows? I can't see the future. I just get Susan Gerbic. I cannot see the future. Susan knows full well. She was a vital part of the great Australian Psychic Prediction Project. And a big shout out to Susan this week, somebody who has done more for skepticism than just about anybody I know. But until next week, and who knows what'll be on the show, I'll have to come up with something, I guess. This is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone podcast on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian skeptics or any other skeptical organisation.
Now, I'll have to pause here for a moment because the man with the leaf blower is coming and he's going to blow leaves under the door and I have to put something in the door. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, good. I'll keep the recording going and you'll just have to edit it out.
So, the cats are very scared and they've come up here too.
All right.
All right, you two. There you are. It's all right, Henny. It's all right. Yeah, they really
Scary.
get very worried about...
Yeah, it's scary stuff, right? Leaf blowers.
Hang on, sorry, I have to pause again. They're at the door now, and the cats are going...
Now I can hear them, yeah.
It's all right. Hey, come on, it's all right. Shh. I know. Maud, come here, come. Hang on. It's all right. It's all right. You're hiding there. You want to go out? Are you sure? All right. You too? Well, if you're going to go out, go out. Go on. Go on, scoot. In or out? Out.
Very well organized to interview this, Richard.
Cats in the studio, I'm sorry. The crash was a result of an external energy discharge that caused the ship to malfunction. Interestingly enough, the occupants were not wearing... Sorry. Interestingly enough, the occupants were not wearing seatbelts. Oh dear, come on, be professional. Interestingly enough, the occupants were not wearing seatbelts.